Hello, I'm Linda. I'm the YouTube personality behind the Gotta Be Handmade channel. I bring attention to handmade artists through my social media platforms. I'm the old bird, and I thank you for joining me today. Today, we have an exclusive, fabulous, one of a kind artist joining us, and he's made the old bird so nervous I can't get myself together. He is Tys Wilson. Hello, Mr. Wilson.
Well, hi there, Linda. Remember, I said, please call me Ty.
Hi, Ty. Thank you for joining me.
Of course, of course.
I saw some of your fabulous work and I'm addicted. I've been looking at your work and reading about you ever since I saw the first piece. And I got up enough nerve to contact you, and I'm so happy you're with me.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I'm really, really glad that you got up the nerve to contact me, although it wouldn't take anything but a little email. That's all you have to do is type it out and send it off, and here I am.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, not only are you a fabulous artist, and I am truly a fan, you are such an encouragement because you kept on going after an incident that happened to you at Hallmark. Can you share that story with us?
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. You know, I think that was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me because it might sound trite, but it is true that you can take bad experiences and make them positive experiences. You can turn the bad into good. And for me, I turned a no into a yes. Basically, long story short, you know, I was really fortunate to get a job at Hallmark Greeting Cards right out of college. I mean, this was a coup for a young artist because it was a steady work. It was great pay for a young person, and it was it was a solid career for somebody in commercial art. That's where I started. But in those days they had a department called process art, it was for young people. They don't know that before scanners, before computers, everything was handmade, just like your site. And so what we would do in my department is the original art would come down from the artist, you know, full color bouquets of flowers or couples or sunsets. And we had to repaint those in black and white so that they could be printed. So we had to do a certain tone of gray would represent red. A certain tone of black would represent blue, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to hand separate all the colors. And so I learned how to mimic other people's styles, but I wasn't able to be creative myself. Yeah. And I kept submitting my own work, my own portfolio to get a promotion to be one of the artists that really created the artwork for the greeting cards.
Okay.
And what happened after, I think it was 4 years, because I mean, when I got the job, I was immediately happy, but then I was frustrated because I wasn't able to be creative. You know, I saw this wonderful, beautiful artwork being used, but none of it was mine. And so, you know, through the hierarchy of the system they had, you can submit your portfolio when an opening comes up for a creative position, and they kept rejecting me. And they said, it's not good enough, or it's not colorful enough, or it's not creative enough. And so I would take all those notes and I would go home, and every night and I would work and I would do my best to make improvements in my portfolios. Yeah. And I kept submitting for 4 years. And on the fourth year, because I had submitted so much, the bosses there, they kind of got to know me, and they actually called me in and they said, well, you know, we see you're trying to be a creative person, but they said, quite honestly, they said, we just don't think you have it in you. We think that you're a good technician and you've got a good production artist skills, but we don't think you're creative. So you should basically stop wasting your time and be grateful you have a job. And so at first they wrote me a letter and saying all that. And then a very, very nice art director brought me into her office and she told me these things. And I said, thank you. And I took that letter. And Linda, I tell you, that day I went out to a store and I got a mat and a frame, and I framed that letter and I hung it up.
You framed did.
I hung it up on a wall at home in front of my easel that I drew with at home, and it was my inspiration. And I said, I'm gonna not. I said not only I'm gonna prove them wrong, but I just thought they were wrong because I just felt like I was talented enough. So almost a year to the day of that last rejection, I quit Hallmark, packed up my little truck because Hallmark is located in Kansas City, Missouri, and drove to New York with a friend and started my life as a freelancer. And if it wasn't for that letter and that rejection, I never would have had that motivation to at least try. And what I did was, I mean, I'm not, and for all the young people, you know, it wasn't just an impulse. I mean, it took planning. I took a year so I could save my money, but I cashed in my 401k in my retirement. So at least I knew in New York, where I knew nobody, that I could pay my rent for a year and I could live for a year, even if I never got a job. But
Yes.
I was lucky enough that 3 months of knocking on doors and making phone calls and shoving my portfolio in people's faces, I got my first job and I never stopped working ever since then.
Yes. And you're being very modest.
Well, that's the
It,
story.
it skyrocketed to the moon.
Well, thank you. It took some time because you know they say every overnight story takes there's years in the making, and
Yeah.
I mean it was 3 or 4 years, but I've got to say, knock on wood, I was very fortunate. I remember a taxi driver once. I was in a cab on my way to Bloomingdale's to show my artwork to the art director there, because Bloomingdale's is a big department store, and I was doing a lot of
Yeah.
advertising then. And the cab driver said, "Well, young man, you look really nervous. You know what's going on?" I said, "Well, I'm on my way to Bloomingdale's, and I was treating myself to a cab ride because cabs were expensive, and I used to take the subway." And he
Yeah.
said, "Oh, you're an artist?" He said, "Well, show me your work." So I opened up my portfolio in the back of the cab, and he's like looking through the rear view mirror to see my artwork. And he said,
Yes.
"Oh, you're pretty talented." He said, "You'll do pretty good." He said, "Just remember," he said, "success is at the corner of hard work and preparation.
Yes.
That's where it'll be." And that was like the first time I heard that expression. And he was right, because it
Yes.
takes not only talent, but it takes hard work, preparation, and a little bit of luck. And
Yes.
then things can start to happen for you.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm telling you, you are so encouraging to me.
Well,
You
thank you.
really. Now let's talk about your art.
Okay.
Okay, what medium do you use?
Now, unlike a
That
lot
may,
of
for the
most,
two people that may not know you,
Mhm.
tell us about it.
Okay, my work primarily, my original work is India ink and brush on paper. Unlike most artists that paint on canvas,
Yeah,
I prefer the tactile feel of paper. It doesn't have to be watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be necessarily an expensive paper. I just like to see the India ink, the black ink, on a white field.
yeah,
That's why I start, and then I'll enhance it with a mixed medium with gouache or with some watercolors. But primarily, it's almost like a Japanese calligraphy.
yes,
That's kind of what I trained in, some of that. And instead of a handwriting, I use that expressive brushstroke to create couples and scenes and kind of
yeah.
try to tell a story with as few brushstrokes as possible.
It does. That's exactly what your work does. It tells a story.
Well, that's what I've
Now,
always tried to do. And the thing that I was like hearing from people that collected my work is that they would say, well, it reminds me of, they'll
yeah,
say, it reminds me of my wife and I, or my boyfriend or my husband, or, they'll say it when a such and such proposed, or when we first met. People can bring their own experience to, it's like, I feel like I'm just kind of, I start the chapter and then people bring the rest of the story to the finished artwork, and that becomes very personal to everybody. And I like that. I like hearing that.
yes. Now tell us where we can get your work from.
Now my work now is exclusively at tywilson.com. Everything's on the interwebs, so the online store is, it's nice because now people are able to find the entire breadth of my work, because I started out doing romantic couples in various situations, but it's kind of expanded to abstracts and floral and animals and just a lot of different kind of art that people would not necessarily think of me. But having had the beauty of a long career, I've been able to experiment, explore, and do some different things. And they can see all of that at tywilson.com.
tywilson.com. Now, Ty, for the last question.
Sure.
What do you have in store for us in the future? Are you just as excited now as you were in the beginning, and you have something that you have planned in the future that you would like to try, that you're going to introduce to us?
That's a great question. I think if you had asked me that a couple of years ago, I would have said, I really don't know. Because you know how you can get blocked after doing something for such a long time? But about 10 months ago, about last year this time, I started to have like a new awakening, and I was like creatively just in a really good place. So I started a new collection of romantics. I also started some new abstracts. And so those are things I'm continuing to explore. I started last year, and I feel like I just kind of scratched the surface at new ways of kind of depict and show romance and love in 2017, as opposed to, well, was it the late 80s when I first started? And the abstracts I continue to further explore, because that's just a different part of the brain. It's all about shape and color and just pure emotion that has no connection to representational art. So between the two, I'm really having a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to continue to show that kind of work.
Yes, and that's going to be so appealing to a younger audience as well as us old birds.
I hope so.
Well, Ty, I really appreciate you joining me today.
Oh,
I don't want to hold you for long. I would like to encourage you to keep on going and keep telling your story and keep it on your website, because as I stated, not only am I a fan of your work, your story is so encouraging.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. I really appreciate that. I really do.
All right. You have a blessed day.
You too. Take care.
And everybody, thank you for joining me today. Thank you, Terry, for placing Tys' website address in the feed. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Because, for the best, it's just gotta be held. Bye-bye.
Bye now.